In today's tutorial, I'm going to show you how to create custom add-ins in Fusion 360 using AI. So let's hop over to Fusion and run through this real quick. So you're going to want to open up a new part. In this case, I'm going to use this as an example. I created a tutorial a few months back kind of showing how it was really difficult to select all of the internal edges on a part like this if you wanted to add fillets or features like that. It becomes very repetitive and you have to go through and select all of these different internal edges. And that might not be so bad on a part of this size, but as you can see, if this gets quite a bit larger and you have a lot more, potentially even hundreds of these internal edges that you want to select, it can be a pretty big pain. And you can go back and watch that video to see exactly what the issue was that I was running into. And I got some helpful comments, but for the most part, nobody had a good solution to it. But I think I have figured it out, and that is by creating and using a custom add-in. You can see the add-ins up here using the built-in Autodesk Assistant, which is essentially their AI tool that you can use to help you answer questions, but also it will write scripts for you, which is very useful for something like this. So the first step is, as I showed you, go up here to Autodesk Assistant, click on that. You can ask it some of these basic questions if you want to learn more about it. But let's just go ahead and go through how to create this custom add-in that will allow us to select all of these internal edges. So this took a little bit of time to figure out exactly how to ask this question. I would say this Autodesk Assistant is not nearly as good as other AIs yet. I'm sure it's improving, but it doesn't quite understand what you're asking as easily and as well as other AIs such as Claude or ChatGPT, whatever you might be using. So you have to be very specific and kind of know how to word things correctly. It might take a few prompts to get what you want, but let's go ahead and give this a shot. So what we want is to select a face and then get all of the internal edges that are perpendicular to that face. And we just want those to be selected. And once all of those are selected, we can then use the fillet tool to create fillets on all of those. So click here, and one thing I found is that you want to call these, instead of just internal edges, you can call them concave. And that really helps the tool understand what you're asking for. So you can say, write me let's see, an add in, if I can spell correctly here, that selects all internal, and then I'm just going to put in parentheses concave so it knows exactly what I'm talking about here, edges that are perpendicular to the selected face. And it's important here, you want it to write the add-in and not just a script, because there's an additional file that you'll see that it will also produce for you as you're trying to get that add-in to run. So let's just start with that and see how far we get. And now it's going to take a little bit of time to think through what we're asking it. You can definitely get a little bit impatient here, especially if you are used to very quick responses using some other AI chatbots, but it's not too slow. If you're working on a bunch of stuff, maybe you can keep working on your design while this is working through whatever task you assign to it. So it's going through here, thinking through all of it. And this is something that I had to go back and forth a few times with it as I was preparing for this episode to figure out the right way to word this and to get what I wanted. I can show you once we start building the add-in itself a few ways that you can go wrong. And part of that is just creating a script instead of a plugin or an add-in. The script will work, it's just a little clunkier and more difficult to work with. Okay, so here you can see it created this Python file as well as this manifest file, which don't ask me exactly what this manifest file is, but I know that you need it to run this add-in. And it also gives you a lot of directions here of how to install and how to run it. So it tells you to, in Fusion, go to Utilities, Add-ins, Scripts and Add-ins, and then you click the plus button here next to My Add-ins, browse to your folder, click Run, and I will show you how to do all of these different things. It gives you a little bit of description about the logic of how this works. And we will go ahead and create this custom add-in and see if it actually does what we want it to. So let's go up here to Scripts and Add-ins. Here is the plus button that it was referring to. And you can select script or create script or add-in. And now you, for the create new, instead of selecting script, do add-in right here. Let's create a name for this. And let's see, let's call it select internal edges. And you can write a description if you want. Say selects all internal edges that are perpendicular to the selected surface. And the author, you can go ahead and put your own name there. Okay, make sure that it's programming in Python and you should be good to go. Hit create. And now you can see that it's populated here in this list. It is selected to be running right now, but then you can also check this so that it will run on startup. And then every time you open Fusion, this will already be running. However, the important thing right now is to make sure that you actually have the proper code that was generated by our handy Autodesk Assistant over here to actually run this tool and select the internal edges that you want. So here you can say open file location, and we can go over here. I actually already had it open, and it will just automatically open up this window here. And so your add-ins, select internal edges, and you can see you have the .manifest file and the .py. However, what you want to do to edit this Python file is come back over to Fusion. And sorry, I've got another window here. Got to X out of that. Okay. Come back over to Fusion, right click here, and you can say edit in code editor. And that will open up your code editor. And you can see here, there's just this basic template that is already pre-populated. Let's go ahead and get rid of all of that. We'll go back over to Fusion, scroll up to the Python file that it gave us. Make sure you copy that. Swipe back over to VS Code, paste in everything that it created for us. Make sure you save that. Okay. Now our Python file is up to date. But we also need to update the .manifest file. So let's copy that text, swipe over here, select this file, open that with your text editor, and we will do the same thing. Delete all of it, paste what we just copied, make sure you save it. X out of that. Okay, now both of these are updated, both your Python file and your manifest file. Go back over to Fusion and let's actually test this out and see if it works. So we'll go back up to our add-ins, and again, you can check right here. It is showing up, it is toggled on to run, and it is also going to run on startup since this is checked. Okay, so go to the drop down here, and now we see it. Select concave edges, and it actually gives you a handy little pop-up here that says select a face first, Then run this command to select all concave edges on its body that are perpendicular to that face. And so let's give this a try. So let's select this face, go up here to the add-ins. We will run that one. It says it found 15 concave edges that are perpendicular to the selected face. Hit OK. And it looks like it has all of those selected, which is very, very fast and very useful. Let's test a fillet here. We'll just go 0.15. And look at that. All of these internal edges now have fillets. So if you find yourself creating potentially a lot of sheet metal parts where you're doing a lot of cuts like this, and you have all of these internal edges, this is something that can be a huge time saver for you. And it's just using this Autodesk Assistant, which is, again, Autodesk's AI assistant that is built into Fusion for you. And again, I think this is going to improve a lot over the coming months and years. It's fairly clunky right now. There's a lot of things where I've tried to use it and it doesn't quite understand what I'm asking. It doesn't really do that much for me. Sometimes it'll automatically edit the part for you. I've had a few other times where it will tell me that it's not able to. Maybe that's has something to do with how I'm prompting it. It's not completely clear. But for something like this, creating these custom add-ins, again, that's in utilities up here in this top ribbon, and go to your add-ins. This is something that is very simple, as you just saw. In less than 15 minutes, we've already created this custom tool that was able to select all of the internal edges on this part and allow us to create fillets in a matter of seconds once we had the add-in created. So that is that tutorial for how to create custom add-ins in Fusion using the AI tool that's built into Fusion called Autodesk Assistant. This is something, again, it saves a lot of time. I wish I would have known it back when I created that other video where I was discussing how I was struggling to create fillets on parts like this, where you have just all of these internal edges that you have to go through and select, and it's very time consuming. So AI is going to be a part of the future. Let's use it to be more efficient as designers and as engineers. And this is one of the ways that you can do that. So that's it for this tutorial. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this useful, make sure you subscribe and make sure to share it with other people, and make sure you stay tuned for more tutorials coming out soon.